My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 38 years old, and for most of my life, I believed in people more than I believed in myself. I ran a charity foundation with my wife, Sophia, the Carter Foundation for Women and Children. We built it together, or at least, that's what I thought. But you never really know what people are capable of. Until truth starts knocking. My wife disappeared after inheriting $3 million from her late mother. 6 months later, I found a letter that changed everything. I still remember the morning it started to fall apart. The sun was up, but the house felt dim, heavy, like it already knew what was coming. Sophia sat at the kitchen island, dressed too neatly for a Monday. Her phone face down, her coffee untouched. I walked in half awake, trying to joke about how Mondays should be canceled. She didn't laugh. She didn't even look up. Then, like she was reading from a script, she said, "I need space." I blinked, unsure if I heard her right. Space? She nodded slowly. Mom's will finally came through. The estate transferred everything. It's around $3 million. She swallowed hard. I think I need to figure out who I am without all this. All this, she said, meaning us. I tried to process it, but it was like watching a stranger wear her face. We'd been together for 10 years, through eviction notices, failed business attempts, and nights where dinner was just noodles and laughter. I supported her through every impossible dream she chased. And now, suddenly, she had money, and no room left for me. I asked quietly, "Are you saying you want a divorce?" She didn't even hesitate. "I think it's for the best." There was no anger in her voice, just finality, like the decision had been made long before that morning. So I nodded, "Okay." She blinked, caught off guard by how calm I was. Maybe she expected begging, or a fight, or some kind of meltdown. But honestly, I was too numb to give her the satisfaction. By Thursday, she had packed half her closet into designer luggage I'd never seen before. By Friday, she was gone, leaving only a note on the dresser. "You've always been good to me. Don't hate me for wanting more." For weeks, I lived like a ghost in my own house. Her perfume still clung to the curtains. Her toothbrush sat untouched beside mine. But every trace of her warmth had vanished. People told me to move on, to count myself lucky she left before kids came into the picture. I tried, I really did. But 6 months later, an envelope showed up in my mailbox. No stamp, no return address. Just my name, printed neatly across the front. Inside was a short, typed message. "She's not who you think she is. Check Havenbrook Foundation. You'll find what she didn't tell you." And underneath it, a single photograph. Sophia, standing in front of a marble building, laughing beside a man in a tailored suit, his hand around her waist. Her smile radiant, familiar. But behind them was a bronze plaque that made my blood run cold. Havenbrook Foundation, in memory of Clara Weston. Her mother's charity, the one she said had shut down years ago. That was the day I realized she hadn't disappeared. She was hiding. It took me 3 days before I decided to go there. 3 days of staring at that photo, asking myself if it was real. If the woman smiling in that picture was still the same woman I once fell asleep beside every night. Havenbrook Foundation. That name kept echoing in my head like a bad dream. I remembered Sophia telling me it had closed right after her mother died. Something about debts, mismanagement, unpaid taxes. She said it was a painful topic, and I didn't press. Because that's what trust looks like, right? You don't go digging in the dark when the person you love tells you to stop looking. But now, I couldn't stop looking, so I drove there. The building was smaller than I expected, An old white structure with tall glass doors and a gold-plated sign that screamed money. And right there, by the entrance, I saw it. Her name, Sophia Weston, Executive Director. I just stood there for a while. Not angry, not shocked, just hollow. Like my mind couldn't connect the dots fast enough. I walked inside. The receptionist gave me that polite, practiced smile. "Good morning, sir. Do you have an appointment?" I said no, but I used her name anyway. "I'm here to see Sophia Weston. I'm her husband." The smile vanished, and the receptionist's eyes flickered, surprise first, then hesitation. "She's not available at the moment. Would you like to leave a message?" That's when I knew something wasn't right. I thanked her, turned around, and walked out. But instead of driving home, I parked across the street and waited. 3 hours later, I saw her. My wife, wearing a white blazer, phone to her ear, laughing like nothing in the world had ever hurt her. Then a black car pulled up. The same man from the photos stepped out. He opened her door. She kissed him on the cheek. And they drove off together. That moment, it wasn't heartbreak, it was confirmation. She hadn't left to find herself. She left because she had already found someone else. But I wasn't after revenge. Not yet. I just wanted answers. That night, I started digging. And what I found was worse than I ever imagined. See, Havenbrook Foundation wasn't just a charity. It was a front. Her mother's will didn't just leave Sophia $3 million. It left her control of the entire trust fund behind that foundation, worth over $12 million. The money was supposed to go to education programs and orphan care centers. But the financial records told a different story. Transfers, offshore accounts, payments made to consulting firms that didn't exist. And one of those firms was registered under the man I saw with her. A man named Derek Langford, a corporate advisor with a trail of failed companies and one open fraud investigation. And there she was, funneling millions into his shell organizations, disguised as charitable expansions. That's when it hit me. She didn't leave because she didn't love me. She left because she couldn't risk me finding out. I was too close, too honest, too inconvenient. But what she didn't know was that her mother had trusted me more than she ever trusted her own daughter. A month before she died, Sophia's mother, Clara, had called me to her home. She was sick, weak, but her mind was still sharp. She said, "If Sophia ever changes, I'm gone. Promise me you'll keep your eyes open." At the time, I thought she was being sentimental. Now I understood. Because when I checked the will, buried in one of the last pages of the legal documents, there was a clause, one line that Sophia either didn't read or ignored. If misuse of funds is detected under the direction of my heir, control of the estate and all trust assets shall revert to the co-signer of this will, Mr. Daniel Carter. That's me. My hands were shaking when I read that line, because suddenly it all made sense. Why she had to disappear, why she lied about the foundation, why she changed overnight. She was covering her tracks before the clause could trigger. And now, by trying to erase me, she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. I printed everything: bank statements, property records, screenshots of her fake transactions. I didn't confront her yet. No yelling, no revenge talk. I wanted precision, not emotion. So I called her mother's attorney, the same man who had drafted the will. When I told him what I found, he went quiet for a full minute. Then he said, "Mr. Carter, do you still have access to the shared estate documents?" I said yes. He exhaled sharply. "Then you might want to come to my office tomorrow morning. You have more power here than you think. I barely slept that night. Part of me still wanted to believe this wasn't real, that she was somehow being manipulated. But every file, every signature, every transaction had her name on it. The next morning, I met the lawyer. He walked me through the clause again, slow and deliberate. It was airtight. All I needed was proof of misuse, and the entire estate would legally transfer out of her control. And I already had the proof. By noon, the motion was filed. By 5 p.m., her access to the foundation accounts was frozen. Every card declined, every transfer blocked. And that's when my phone rang. Unknown number. I knew it was her before I picked up. Daniel? Her voice cracked. They froze everything. I don't know what's happening. I let the silence stretch a little. Then said, I told you once, Sophia, money doesn't make you free. It just shows who you really are. Period. She tried to sound calm, but I could hear the panic. Daniel, please, I can explain. It's not what you think. I cut her off. You're right. It's worse. Then I hung up. But I wasn't done. Because there was one more person who needed to know the truth. The donors. The people she stole from. So I called a journalist, someone I'd met years ago while volunteering with Clara. Period. I told her everything. Sent her the files. The fake firms. Even the photo of Sophia and Derek. She didn't hesitate. We're going to publish this. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because I had to make sure no one else got hurt. 3 days later, the story broke. Havenbrook Foundation under investigation. Executive director accused of embezzling charitable funds. Her face was everywhere. Her career, her image, her illusion of power, gone overnight. And Derek? Vanished. That same week, I got a call from the attorney again. P. said, Mr. Carter, it's official. The estate and all remaining assets are now under your control. The clause has been enforced. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even smile. I just sat there, looking at the old photo of us framed on my desk. Because love doesn't vanish overnight. It dies in small pieces until one day you realize there's nothing left to save. But if there's one thing I learned, it's this. Sometimes you don't lose someone when they walk away. You lose them the moment they choose greed over loyalty. And that's a kind of death you can't mourn. After the article broke, the city felt quieter. Like the whole world had inhaled and was waiting for what came next. Sophia disappeared from the headlines within a week, replaced by newer scandals, newer faces. But behind that silence, chaos was unfolding. The foundation launched a full audit. The donors pulled out. The board cut all ties. She called once, then twice, then 6 times in one night. I didn't answer. It wasn't that I hated her. Hate's too heavy to carry. I just didn't have anything left to say. But one afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. Just one line. Please, meet me once. At the park near Elm Street. For a second, I thought about ignoring it. But curiosity has a way of whispering louder than reason, so I went. It was late evening, the sky painted gold and pink, like it was trying to make peace between day and night, and there she was, sitting on a bench. No makeup, no polished clothes, just human. She looked up when I approached, her eyes red, tired, stripped of all that pride that once made her untouchable. Daniel, she whispered, thank you for coming. I didn't sit immediately. I just stood there, arms crossed, waiting for her to start. I lost everything, she said quietly. The money, the company, even Derek. He took what was left and ran. They say he's in Spain. I can't find him. There was no pity in me anymore. only a sad kind of distance. I warned you once, I said. You just didn't want to listen. Pause. Saying this factually. I know, and I deserve what's happened. But please believe me, it didn't start this way. It wasn't supposed to go that far. Please believe me, it didn't start this way. How lies had multiplied faster than she could control. I listened, not as her ex-husband, but as a man who had finally stepped outside of her storm. When she was done, I sat beside her and said quietly, "You didn't lose everything, Sophia. You gave it away." She nodded, tears running freely now. "Do you ever forgive me?" That one hit harder than I expected. Because part of me wanted to. But forgiveness isn't a door you walk through once. It's a hallway. And I wasn't there yet. So I said the truth. Maybe one day, but not today. She nodded again, almost relieved to hear honesty instead of false comfort. We sat there until the sun went down. No yelling, no closure. Just two people who used to love each other, finally sitting in the ashes of what they built. When I stood up to leave, she asked softly, "What will you do now?" I looked out at the empty playground. The fading sky. "I'll rebuild the foundation," I said, but this time for real. The following months were strange, quiet, but full. I renamed the organization the Haven Project. Not after her, but after the idea of safety. A place where people broken by financial betrayal could find help, guidance, and a second chance. Funny thing, people started showing up. Former donors, volunteers, survivors. They didn't ask about the scandal. They just said, "Let's fix this." And somehow we did. We reopened shelters. We sponsored kids back to school. We partnered with local businesses to create job programs. Every time we launched something new, I could almost hear Clara's voice, her mother's, saying, "Keep your eyes open." I was, and for the first time, I wasn't looking for lies. I was looking for light. Then, one morning, months later, I received a letter. No name, no signature, just a simple note. "I've started volunteering at a small orphanage in Brighton. It's not much, but it's something. I'm sorry, truly." I read it twice, folded it, and kept it in the same drawer where her old wedding ring still sat. Not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder that every fall, every betrayal, every wound has two directions, downward or forward. And I had chosen forward. A year later, during one of our foundation's public events, a young volunteer asked me a question that caught me off guard. She said, "Mr. Carter, do you ever regret what happened?" I smiled, took a deep breath, and told her the truth. "No, I regret who I lost, not what I learned. Pain changes you, but if you let it, it can also refine you. What broke me once built something better." The crowd clapped, cameras flashed, but I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about Sophia, somewhere out there, maybe rebuilding herself, in her own quiet way. Because at the end of the day, I didn't want her destroyed. I just wanted her to learn. And maybe she finally did. If you've made it this far, here's what I'll say. Sometimes the people you love will choose greed over grace. They'll walk away, believing they can buy happiness without you. Let them. Don't chase. Don't beg. Don't shrink. Because the storm that tried to bury you can be the same ground you rebuild on. Sophia's story ended in silence. Mine began again in purpose. I turned betrayal into a mission, heartbreak into fuel, and pain into something useful. And if you're standing where I once stood, lost, blindsided, hollow, remember this. You don't heal by getting even. You heal by rising higher than the one who broke you. Because revenge ends stories. But redemption? That starts new ones. You believe in second chances, in rebuilding after betrayal. Truth doesn't hide. It reveals, it restores, and it rises. Stay strong, stay wiser, stay unbroken.